Hi, I'm Thomas Snyder, founder of Grandmaster Puzzles, and we're currently in the midst of the 12 Months of Sudoku project, where we take a year to see how far we can push the limits of Sudoku. And for sure, people think that's going to be about crazy puzzles I write, and it might be. And there'll be some places where we tell stories and give hints and all sorts of things like that. But it's as much about new partners, new projects, and doing different things in Sudoku than we've ever tried to do before. Knowing that there's so much that can be done in this rich space to push our enjoyment, to push our intelligence, to push how we teach and monitor all sorts of things. And so this is the first update in the This Month in Sudoku series. We'll try to do one roughly every 4 weeks to sort of tell you how things are going. And this will be a tale of 5 puzzles, and just as much about this puzzle as about our connection with the Genuinely Approachable Sudoku team, our first new partner in a really incredible year. I'm so excited for where we go. But before we go too far, I hear we might have some breaking news, just hot off the press. Is that true? Is that true? Yeah, thanks, Thomas. This is Clark Kent. I'm a reporter from 1950s, apparently, and I talk at the rate people used to talk in those days. I'm not manic or anything. I'm saying I had to be assigned to the story because of all the impressive things happening in the world of AI generation right now. Good AI generated Sudoku is coming this week. That's what I'm being told from my sources at GMP. Following the news that Nickly and Cracking the Cryptic like puzzles were being used to test AI. Final boss is coming. Final bosses. I was thinking Superman. I was thinking super villains. And they're like, that's absolutely right. That's what you got. That's how you got to be thinking about. So they talked to me about how this didn't make any sense. Like when this news came out, it didn't make sense compared to what they were doing behind the scenes. But it will eventually make sense. Like the 4x4 is a little tricky. One in 64 chance maybe if one given. Then who knows? Like he was talking really fast. I was talking really fast. None of the information going through anyway. But it's like 9x9s. He told me slow down and think about a Nickly puzzle. And like a Nickly 9x9 might start with a one, and then 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 a two, 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 and then a three. And there's a level at which those puzzles can be solved that a large language model not trained to do a thing cannot do, and that's not intelligent. That's just hype. And so he told me that what you need to think about is a different approach to potentially going at this work. And this is what the GMP team is announcing this week when they say they really have good AI-generated Sudoku coming. They have a new artificial Sudoku intelligence. It's a system that was used to generate and evaluate puzzles with a separate system to solve those grids. As they said, superhero, supervillain, Superman over here, showing his powers off, and then there are weaknesses. And so you gotta fight the weaknesses and sort of move up. And it's got to be a paired system to make sense. It's got to have reasons that it's being used. And the GMP team are fairly humble or fairly secret. You can choose which of the two you want to say, but I looked a little bit into them. International team, really impressive resume, some former employees at Google. We know they're a big name in this AI field, and some former partnerships with Microsoft. They seem to be working with LinkedIn, maybe OpenAI, we're not sure. Large scale data acquisition potential there. They got database of highly curated puzzles for fine tuning. They got established training regimes for different Sudoku heuristics, hundreds of hours of walkthroughs. They stress without filler. They actually describe the steps. They don't say one by Sudoku and 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 two by. They actually do the Sudoku steps. They don't just do other stuff. And dozens of Sudoku they say that no one has ever solved outside the company. Like when someone solves one of their key puzzles, their signing bonuses seem to be getting accepted. $100 million not working in other places, but the GMP signing bonuses seem to be rock solid. The world not ready for the so-called Dr. Sudoku system. That's the name they're giving it. Apparently their founder, Thomas Snyder, is walking away from the name. They're going to just use the Dr. Sudoku is now an AI name, but it makes sense if you're going to doctor the puzzle. If you want to have some ways to really play around there. No one ever called him by the nickname anyway. Like he's Thomas Snyder. It just doesn't make any sense. And so they'll be sharing a story of self-studying Sudoku tomorrow, beginning tomorrow. Critically just one puzzle a day, they say. And I asked why. Like they're making hundreds a day, but they say that they still do some stuff on paper and they don't today have enough paper clips to handle the rate at which the printers would have to go to handle all the puzzles that Dr. Sudoku's making. And so, they're creative. The president right now says they're going to get AI or venture investors on that are going to solve the paperclip problem. But for right now, it's just about one Sudoku a day. They're going to see where they can take it. Like it's going to be incredible. That's all the news I have for you now. Thomas, again, this is Clark Kent reporting in. And thanks for that not fake news, because that's important that we have in this day and age is some source of truth and information. And it's a tough life some days. It's a tough life some days, but we're now in the unscripted, just slow down talk of this world. Like for the last 2 months, I've felt fulfilled and had fun and not reading about how we no longer care about how vaccines work or have experts on panels or all sorts of other stuff, because right now I can't work on those problems. I have to get us thinking again. And to get us thinking again, I've got to work back to some of the basics. And so I want to tell you the first month in this project, and a really, really incredible story of connecting with some incredible people. I mentioned this in my How to Solve Sudoku Like a World Champion talk. My first introduction to Sudoku was through computer-generated puzzles, and that label is not critiquing puzzles that are mathematically true to have a solution and use certain kinds of steps, but they're not pushing the intellectual, the artistic, or other aesthetic meanings of a puzzle in a way that's going to keep attention and push attention in a long term. And so months after I was solving so-called Sudoku, I finally encountered what the Japanese have had for a long time and the rest of the world still may not have much of, which are handcrafted things. And in this talk is puzzle one of our Tale of Five puzzles. It's the first ever diagonal Sudoku I ever saw. It's this one in the middle. And I'm calling out very specifically that it's from Nonpareil Fan 52 from October of 2004. I don't know the author. If someone does, I'd love to know so I can actually properly credit them. But this is a puzzle that different times of my life I've been inspired by. 5 rows of it are empty, all of the top, and that can't work. There are two flips and 6 flips for the middle and the top with those empty rows, except for these magic diagonal constraints that do enough. And even knowing that, it's not trivial to make a grid like this that solves in a fun way. And I've now, in the sense of making derivative works, I've taken this visual pattern and I've handcrafted and then computer crafted puzzles exactly of this design. And so this is an idea when I think of diagonals, it's always in my theme of what's a really cool diagonal idea. Like another one we had in the World Sudoku Championships was just like a different splitting of the grid where like you have really limited where the numbers go, but in different ways, it stands out to your eye. You want to solve it. You then do solve it. You have a phenomenal experience. You're like, this is what Sudoku can be. This is what Sudoku can be. It still is. 21 years later, this is still better than most stuff I see sent to my email by someone who's not on the GMP team. And I'm not saying don't send stuff to our email addresses. I'm saying like, your first puzzle is okay. It's just not, this is mind-blowing. Let me tell you sort of how me sharing this story during a talk with someone at the talk, and I'd done some just one cell constructions with Clover to make a competition there, but I had not, in full honest opinion, I was very aware of things like gas. I had never looked at who are the authors or who are the editors. I had my own mental model of gas that I didn't make any sense of, but anyway, I'm delivering the talk, and Clover writes this grid during the talk because my talk is boring or I'm talking too fast and she wants to catch it later. I don't know. But she prints out a version of this and gives it to me later on to eventually solve for myself because she wanted to have a solve of a gas puzzle by me. Because at least in the level to which I was willing to admit to that, I'd never done that before. And so this doesn't push the initial theme as far as the initial theme went with 4 rows of givens and 5 rows empty. This has 5 rows and 4, but still has a lot of empty space. It still has six flips at the top that don't make any sense without those diagonal constraints doing work. And it's really, really well constructed from a gas accessibility path. And I wasn't yet solving as many other puzzles to know where they were using number telegraphing this time, but for sure, 1s and then 2s and then 3s go really well in the puzzle. And then it breaks apart more. So it's not all in order. But you can see in the lower left box 1, 2, 3, in the center box 1, 2, 3. I've highlighted just the 1s and 2s in this. This is a well-made construction for something made during a talk I was giving that then wanted to have me solve on paper, and for sure this was the first one I solved. And when I unblinded myself after the conference, seeing some of the people, Clover and Philip Newman, and Bill Murphy wasn't able to be there, but connected with him sort of afterwards. This is a really impressive team that was doing impressive work to actually make artistic and intellectual statements. They weren't trying to be as hard as they could be. They were trying to be deliberate and daily, and they were doing something awesome. And puzzle 2, and then all the gas puzzles I solved afterwards made a reason that we had to get connected. Now, I don't know for sure, because I never heard this directly from Bill, that puzzle 2 led to his making puzzle 3. But my intellectual path says it does, because it has the same checkerboard pattern. It was going to be written in May, and Bill was writing his puzzle in May to potentially be for June. This would have been the first puzzle that ever appeared on our site on June 8th when this was published. And this doesn't have the look of the same emptiness until you sort of split it apart another way. This is an anti-night puzzle. This is not a diagonal puzzle, but it still has 2 spaces, the 2 rows at the top and the 2 rows at the bottom that can flip in a classic Sudoku form. So this does not work as a classic puzzle, but it can work with this hidden, or if you read the rules, described variation anti-knight. And it also has a really brilliant gas level accessibility path. You can see some things if you look at the left. You can see a very different kind of thing, but pattern if you look at the right. You could do things like I saw in the gas walkthrough video. You could solve the 5 middle rows before getting anything else, like achievement unlocked. There are ways we could do a lot of stuff with puzzles like this if we even tell you. You don't get to see all of the grid until you do the middle. Like there's lots of stuff that just lighted up in my mind by seeing this. And one of the things that light up in my mind is like, I finally at least know the first Bill Murphy puzzle I want to write to give back as a gift to Bill, as we were doing a series of what I seriously / jokingly call wedding gift puzzles. So wedding gift number 1 is this puzzle on the right. It's called, Bill's puzzle was called Shut Up. And I didn't know at the time that he was mostly using the names of songs for his titles. But anyway, I took Shut Up somewhat personally. And so I responded by saying, but I still have things to say. So the title of my puzzle, I think, is something like, but I still have things to say. And it's shown on the right. And I still can't replicate in Sudoku Pad, like making that blue triangle that cuts off most of a digit in the middle. I still can't replicate. So I prefer the version you see here. It is absolutely an anti-knight puzzle. It absolutely has 2 empty rows at the top and 2 rows at the bottom. And it does something that I had to do for the sake of our sort of strained wedding goal of having something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. So what's something blue I could bring to this puzzle? There's something that I misperceive or misgeneralize about cracking the cryptic things, which is sometimes their rules are written really horribly. Or separately, their rules are applied really horribly, like they're only used once in a puzzle, where it's like, as an editor, I would have fixed that. Like my intuition, again, I'm not trying to play as a solver. As an editor, I'd say, like, I would have handled that differently. And so I wanted to write a really awkwardly reading rule that has a very simple meaning that at the very least would make an AI choke on itself, in the same way the blue triangle covering a 9 would make an AI choke on itself, even though all of us as humans can see that's a 9 today. Like maybe a visual model on top of a language model on top of a just knowing Sudoku thing. Forget the AI stuff. Like the A is not artificial, but Sudoku intelligence is here. We're going to talk about it a lot. And there are fun puzzles starting tomorrow. Like, please enjoy the series. I want to share in different respects things that I want to cover on the mentions for this puzzle. And I'm going to start with something borrowed. This is the most obvious of these, and I'm not sure I can. Well, it's all in white text, so I'm going to speak to it, but maybe if you can really like change the contrast, like for sure this is Bill and gas. Like this pattern inspired by that puzzle, seeing the minimality, the minimization of puzzles. I wanted to get to fewer rows. I tried to do just 2, but I felt cut it in half was a pretty good goal. And so I literally cut it in half. That's where the idea to split the center cell and then have some other rule there. So borrowed is working with gas, and very specifically, this puzzle exists because Bill's puzzle exists, and Bill's puzzle sort of exists because of things behind it, and even me loving Sudoku. Like, we all can point back to inspirations of the past. A future video may talk about the bad sides of derivative works, but these are authors inspired by authors kind of pushing the limits. Absolutely what borrowed is. Old is still somewhere in the back of my mind, that both how I construct, but also that diagonal puzzle from a Japanese non-prey magazine. So what's borrowed, what's old? New. This is the very first puzzle I used Sudoku Maker to both make and set. And like, I've just never made an anti-knight. Like, I've had other constraints in some of the computational tools, less developed, that I got from partners like Wei Wang and others in the late 2000s, but I've never pushed just using what the latest tool can do. So if I want to know quickly, make an 8 given anti-knight Sudoku, I can do that. Wow, like, I'm not excited. Like, I could put 14 more constraints and make like a miracle puzzle. Like, it supports a certain kind of design. I didn't want to do that kind of design necessarily, but it was part of like what I sort of, in my poor mental model of cracking the cryptic puzzles, where I've solved just as few or even less now than I've solved of gas puzzles, because I've now solved about 100 gas. I've solved 2 cracking the cryptics. This was a space where, besides using the tool, I felt there were things about the community I could start to reference or have fun with. Like, there is, and I've played this song on repeat now, an REM song. That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight. So this puzzle has 2 3s and 2 corners and excitement. Wow. Like, if you wanted to know, like, Easter egg spoiled for you, yes. Someday Simon will solve this puzzle and sing twice, or probably not, because I don't drive the, the algorithm very well. So new is about cracking the cryptic. It's about Sudoku Maker. It's about Sudoku Pad. Blue is about the rule. And so we'll just go back a slide and sort of give you the blue rule. Also, numbers placed into a cell, filled wholly or partially with a primary or secondary color, cannot rhyme with the name of that color in English. Now let's just live edit this, because in this puzzle, there's not a primary or a secondary color. There's only one of these. Like, if you were writing this rule for this puzzle, you'd write it this way. You would even say, let me ruin the puzzle for those of you who aren't yet intelligent. Blue cells cannot contain 2's. Whoop-de-doo. But that's what the rule is, okay? And so there's a step of processing that's between the rule and the puzzle, and I guess that's what sometimes the CTC solvers enjoy. It's kind of like a cryptic crossword, exactly the same. I think it's about the obfuscation and not about the Sudoku. And good for you, good for it. Love it. Clark Kent will be back, and we'll talk about those things, including whatever that AI bullshit is going to take you to. But I just wanted to do something blue, which is me. Because like blue is me. It's a new creative element. It's also a mental health element where I'm just trying to have fun. And I want to stress, I'm doing okay. This is a genuine smile. And I hope some of you are enjoying the fun of the video, because again, this is the unscripted part. But for sure, there are elements of puzzles 1, 2, 3, and 4 that go to the path of puzzle 5. Puzzle 5 looks exactly like that first Japanese puzzle. But by the time you get to puzzle 5, there's a blue square. There are little green numbers. There are gray letters that say guess hero if you read across them. There's something else going on in these layers that's not all about them. But I was reminded of this puzzle because it was in my talk that Clover followed through with, that Bill followed through in, that then became part of the cake puzzle. And if you think Philip's being missed, this puzzle was, I think, posted at 6:28 p.m., which is some kind of a hidden thing towards him. But like Ready Layer Cake, it genuinely has never been solved outside GMP. It may never be. I don't care. I'm not making these things because they're necessarily puzzles anymore. I'm breaking the first rule of a puzzle maker. Except I am willing to share hints and have conversations around any people who are trying. I just don't think people try the stuff I post anymore for different reasons. We're waiting for ChatGPT to solve it first. So good luck with that. So I want to give the very first hint of what may be a series of hints for this puzzle, because I don't think this is the final boss. But if I think about intelligence, even my layer 1 needs NLP. So I've already failed, but let me simplify NLP for you so that layer 1 is just something before 4x4 Sudoku, because I don't think knowing a Sudoku is the first step of intelligence. I think maybe knowing numbers maybe, or symbols maybe, or something. I want to first test before I want to throw a 4x4 anti-knight with 2 Kropke dots and say that's the first thing in their panel. Look at it. It's a 4x4. It's just ridiculous. But it has at most 244 answers, 288 answers, except it gives 1 digit, so it has 64 potential answers. So like, I have enough typewriters in my house that I think a monkey could solve that one. So like, anyway, like the left doesn't make sense. Ready Layer Cake may not make sense, but let me give you a hint for layer 1. It's going to come from voices of the past, so you need help. Like you want to wait. We're going to wait for this to load. Well, ignore the press release stuff. Like the layer 1 instructions are still there critically. So let me pause and go back. If you are relatively new intelligence and are not tall enough to reach most places above the ground, prove your primary education by telling us the entry. Yeah, I could have written this. I may, at the end of this video, still rewrite this rule for you, but let's just go through this. So you got to shrink down the information. Most of real life is far too much stuff. And I don't post a thing at 6 p.m. I post it at 6:28 p.m. And that extra specificity makes you think it comes with extra factuality, and it does not mean anything. 47% of people I invented in the last 2 years of my time believe that this world makes sense today. 47%. That's almost half. And maybe we need almost half of this puzzle. Maybe we need less. Maybe purple's not a primary color. I'd love to have written the rules to get rid of the grid lines, but like the first layer of this puzzle is to tell me an interesting way you want to fill in that blue box. Fill in the blue cell in the provided image. Like it's not like seeing an 81 cell picture of beds and traffic lights and I gotta click some of them to prove I'm a human. But this isn't a hard thing to prove you're a human. It's just Layer 1's been solved by a fair number of the people at GMP and all of my friends. Layer 2 is the most brilliant diagonal puzzle I've ever written, but it has one blue cell because I had to fix a little thing, because I had to make all these other constraints work. And layer 3 and layer 2 plus 2 and layer 2 plus 2. And critically, 2 plus 2 is not 2 plus 2. Like, those are more concerning. And this is to kind of more general mental health statement. I wrote this puzzle on a day of peak hypomanic nature because I played in a puzzle hunt and didn't sleep well for a few days. And I was on medication and I came back down. And I'm now like a month removed from writing, or several weeks removed from writing this puzzle. But my intelligence comes out some days and it goes away at days, but it is intelligence. And I do think I have a Dr. Sudoku in how I actually make puzzles, which means I don't have to spend any time making curious things. But I also know there's a lot more I can do than what's on paper and pencil. I know there's a lot more I want to do that follows my time able to do Sudoku in this world. And that's what the 12 Months of Sudoku is going to set us up for. It's going to take the inspirations from all the designers that led along the way and reveal the art of Sudoku again, which has been there all along, just hidden in the background because I guess I copyrighted it. So thanks for listening to this video. We hope you got something out of it, at least a hint for layer 1. There'll be a lot more curious puzzles coming. Most of them may not be solved for a while, that's not the goal, but the ones that are very much marked with difficulty ratings, with solving times that look like classic, that are classics, those are for sure to enjoy. The rest you may want to talk with others about. And our Discord's a great place to do that. Any other place you want to do, you can do that. Our automated support systems will be available, including Clippy, when you need to have more of our paper clips, because that's the one thing we're going to get more of, is more paper clips for July. Thank you. That's this month in Sudoku.